was the moment that I realized that I was using the wrong skill sets for the roles that I was in, that I understood that my fit was actually in-house. And it was a Black woman who was the general counsel of Diageo at the time, who actually sat down with me and said, I understand that you want to be partner, you're up for partner this year, but did you ever think that maybe your skill set, your intelligence, your passions could be better fit in an in-house environment where you are the strategist, where you are the decision maker? Just think about it. And it was at that moment that I realized that I needed to make a move. And she actually offered me an in-house position. But frankly, it wasn't until I understood what my passion and my purpose was, and I merged those two, that I was able to find the right professional role for me, a role where my leadership style was more suitable in a setting where not only was I advising, but I was actually implementing the change and being a part of the strategic plan. And I'm the type of leader that likes to get my hands dirty. I like to go in there. I like to be boots on the ground. I like to know the people that I advise. It's just a different skill set than being in a firm. And that's where I needed to be. The other thing I found that is when I was in these firms, I was expected to fit into a certain mold. And that's just not me. And I was expected to dim my light. And again, that's just not me. And it wasn't until I was able to embrace and recognize my unique difference, my unique gifts, the light that I carry, that those were my superpowers. And they couldn't be hidden. They couldn't be dimmed. No one could make those superpowers of mine become invisible. And I realized that I needed to be in an environment that when I show up with those superpowers, that those are embraced and celebrated. And that my multiple intelligences and my authentic leadership was something that I could walk in, and I was allowed to take up space. It wasn't going to happen for me in a firm. And so that's how I ended up in-house, is frankly, I accepted who I was and my superpowers, and I went someplace where those superpowers were recognized and utilized versus used against me to exclude me.
What's some challenges that you found to being in-house, say versus outside counsel, that you would identify for the group?
We used to joke sometimes in that until you create some credibility in relationships, a lot of times the business team would defer to the advice of the outside counsel in thinking that maybe outside counsel had, a better view of the issue, or was more smarter, or, understood things better. And so, we would call it the double speak. I would give advice, and then they would go but they didn't really hear it until the outside counsel gave the advice. But eventually, over time, you can develop relationships with the business team, and they will grow to value your opinion. And I think that's where I thought that I gained the most success, is when the business team started coming to me and wanting my advice above that of outside counsel. There's always a role for outside counsel on certain matters, but when you can develop those relationships where the business team sees you as a true partner in the process and comes to you for advice and is not ignoring your advice to go to outside counsel, I think that's where you think you've kind of overcome and gained a successful relationship.
Some things that you think your external advisors can learn from, your outside counsel can learn from the experience that you've gained as an in-house lawyer. And I think this will be interesting to the audience in large part because it shows the differences between the outside and in-house, but it also will help them to manage their outside counsel a little better. Tell us a bit about some of the differences you notice between the external advisor role and the in-house counsel in the context of your experience and in your story.
I think in my experience, I'll use a restaurant analogy, I think, to take us through my learnings. So I'd say being external, you're part of a buffet.
Okay.
So there's loads of clients to attend to, loads of issues at any given point that you have to juggle and deal with. But as you move in-house, you find that your buffet experience becomes a fine dining experience. Because you get to have a more intimate understanding of your client. You get to understand the issues with greater finesse, with greater depth, and to see the impact of your advisory in real time. I think Terry brought out the fact that when you're external, you tend to be brought in at the tail end of any issue. But when you're in-house, you're at the beginning, you're in the middle, you're in the end, and many a time when things also go wrong, you're part of the mess, cleaning it up, or part of the joys if things do turn out well. So I think in a nutshell, for me, that has been my experience in understanding the drift from match into greater focus. Something that I tell all my external panel. I think if they're any of the call right now, they will easily identify with me. Understand my business, full stop. Okay, by understanding my business, you put yourself in my shoes. So where the business is going, where the business is feeling, what the business is experiencing, what our customers want. So the same effort, same depth that I go into to better serve my client, you should also spare the time to be able to go through the same sort of rigor that I do. When you have that basic level of understanding, it means then you become complementary to me, and together we're better able to service our clients. But we end up in a position where you feel you know, and then you're more of the individual that is taking the big stick to guide the business without having a greater understanding of how all the parts come together. Then you become a disservice to your client rather than the remedy or the support that your client is looking for. So that is something that I constantly push to my external counsel. And as a business, what we do to support that is to constantly engage with the external panel in terms of trainings, in terms of engagement with them around our products, and also opening the doors to them at any given point for them to simply raise their hand and say, we have this technology issue, guide us, give us an understanding from a layman's understanding, how does this thing fit together? Those issues do not necessarily have to be about Safaricom. It could be any other client you may be advising on, of course, maintaining the confidentiality that you need. But the fact remains, we have a pool of a very specialized counsel who would be able to bring the issues down, to dumb down the issues, as it were, for an external counsel. So from that constant engagement and that building of a relationship, we find that then we're able to service our client better.